Hello everyone, my name is Jennifer and welcome to Best Kept Plants. Today's video is going to be a plan with me for the week of July 17th through the 23rd, 2023 using my B5 Archer and Olive notebook. If you're interested in seeing that, please stick around. Here we are in my B5 Archer and Olive notebook. I'm going to be going with a vertical layout for this week's spread. I will be using a stamp from this set from Close to My Heart, the days of the week and week number stamp from this set from Elle's Studio. I'll be using one of the paint splatter stamps from this set from My Favorite Things. I'll be using the circle outline stamp from that set from My Favorite Things. I'll be using the July month stamp from this set from Paper Person. And I, of course, will be using my favorite number stamps from Heidi Swap. I will be using some warm toned colors for my Distress Oxides this week, as well as my black VersaFine ink. I figured since I used cool tones last week that it made sense to go with more warm tones for this week's spread. In this first column here, I'm kind of experimenting with exactly how I want to lay down these stamps. So I started off with the Festive Berries Distressed Oxide and the grid stamp, and then put the paint splatter stamp over it with the Squeezed Lemonade Distress Oxide, and then used my picked raspberry for the circle stamp. The only issue that I had is that I think I need to wait between putting down the grid stamp and then the paint splatter stamp over it, because in doing them quickly one after each other, the red Distress Oxide color kind of bled into the yellow of the paint splatter stamp. So here I am just going down the line and putting on all of the grid stamps all at once so that I can give the ink a little bit of time to dry before I go in with the paint splatter stamp. And as usual, I am going to be using the last column all the way on the right for Saturday and Sunday. So I'm going in right now and just putting in some pencil marks for myself so that I know where to lay down this kind of header situation. Now I'm going to go in with the paint splatter, and again I did kind of give my paper a couple of minutes to dry. I didn't find that I needed to do that between putting the paint splatter stamp down and then that circle outline stamp. I did also clean off this stamp in between uses, because even though I did give the red Distress Oxide time to dry and I didn't get that bleeding, some of it did transfer to the stamp itself, and I didn't want that to make things look muddled. So I cleaned off this yellow paint splatter stamp after every use. I do like the way that these headers came out. I mean, I definitely pulled off what I was hoping for, which was that it would look like there was distinct headers for every column. I did something similar back, I think in either May or early June, where I used cool tone colors and I used like two different stamps and then an outline stamp, and I just really liked the way that looked, so I was kind of trying to do a similar thing just with different stamps. What I will say is, after having done it completely, I do wish I would have varied the stamps up a little bit, more so the paint splatter stamp and the circle stamp. And I just think that if I would have done that, like if I would have kind of not had everything centered on top of each other, it would have just made things look a little bit more interesting. And you'll see what I mean when I go down to this bottom left corner here. I'm putting in a little bit of deco for the month and the week number stamp, and as you can see, like I off-centered the paint splatter stamp, I off-centered the circle stamp, and I actually really like the way that that looks. Now, I don't know that I would have had enough room to do that up top necessarily, because things are pretty close together up there, but overall I like the way that this looks with not everything being centered on top of each other and having a little bit more variability. Here I am putting down the July stamp as well as the week number stamp and the 29, and then I'm going to go in with my number stamps from Heidi Swap and put in the dates and days of the week. One thing that I tried to do a little bit different for this week's spread, in trying to be just a little bit more efficient with my time, was that I did the dates for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then you're going to see that instead of moving on to the dates for Thursday through Sunday, I'm actually going to go in with the days of the week stamps. And the reason why this is more efficient for me is it's just less of me moving around my bullet journal so that I can capture what I'm doing on my camera. I usually go through and do all the dates, and then I go back through and do all the days of the week, and it's just a lot of moving everything around, and that just takes more time. And I realize that it's a lot more time efficient for me to do it in this way. I could be even more efficient by using two different blocks. I'm actually using the same block for my numbers and the days of the week stamps, but I like that size block. I like using a block that's not so much bigger than the stamp that I'm using. So I decided to just use the same block for everything. As usual, I have to comment on how much I love these number stamps. They are just my favorite. They're just my favorite stamps I own, which is really funny because they're not decorative in any way, but they're just so, I love a functional stamp, and they're just so functional, but they're also fun because there is some variability. They make things interesting. So I just love using them, and maybe one day I'll get sick of them, but that day is not going to be today. So here I am again moving into doing the days of the week stamps, and as usual I am trying to center everything. I will say I did not do a great job of centering the number stamps this week with regards to centering from left to right. Like that 20, that is off for sure. I was definitely a little off on several of them, but I did do a little bit better with centering the days of the week. And now that I have all of that stamping done, I'm going to go in with my Micron in 08 and put in the lines to separate each day of the week. Again, going with this double line situation between each column so that all of the columns are the same width across. This Micron is dying horribly. I definitely need a new run, and I actually looked through my collection of Microns, and I unfortunately don't have any of this size left. I don't have any more 08s, so I'm going to have to place an order or go to like Michael's or Joann's or something and get a couple, because I love the thickness of this when I'm putting my lines for my spreads in my bullet journal and also my reading journal. And that's going to be it for this week's Plan With Me. I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, be safe. Bye-bye.